The John LeBank Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John LeBank Show.
Greetings, Earthlings, and alert the media. The banger is on the microphone. After a couple of weeks, folks, that have been very interesting for the banger. A lot of developments have happened behind the scenes, and we're kind of reshuffling a few things. We've dropped a few stations because of lack of listenership. We had one station drop us. Their excuse, I love the excuses sometimes. Speaking there, they're talking about oversaturation of the John LeBank Show. That's because I'm on a lot of great networks, and their network wasn't quite as cool as everybody else. I was actually going to talk about some stuff with them coming up because of the changes happening over the summer and the September scheduling that's going to happen after the summer scheduling. I was going to try to reshuffle some times for them so they could have a better opportunity to get even more listeners, because I still had more listeners when I was on than they do most of the time. I have ways of monitoring the stations and how many people are actually listening. And although I wasn't getting a great number on that one station, it was there in the middle of Ohio. I mean, how many people are listening to an Ohio station anyways? If it's not about the football, the college team there. If it's not an all sports thing. So I understood the low numbers were going to be there, but it was another market we were in, and well, their primary concern is that the John LeBank Show is oversaturated, except in Ohio, because we don't have an affiliate there besides them, or we don't anymore now. But here's a station, or a network actually. This was a huge network I was on. This carried 15 stations. Yet when I look at their numbers through the resources I have, they have less listeners when you tally in all their stations than my show did for the 1 hour every other day situation that it was on there, that they were carrying the show. So I was like, I understand the numbers aren't there, and maybe it's just too much work to syndicate a worldwide broadcast on such a small station. And because, a lot of these people don't get paid at all. These people who are running these stations, they're putting a lot of time and effort with really no reward or very little reward. So I understand when it becomes a burden and too much work for a station to do extra work when they're really not getting the listeners, which then means they're not getting any advertising. Because if no one's listening, they can't go and get advertising, because who's going to advertise on a station that has no listeners? So when you take that into account, I was fine with it. I was actually going to work with them, like I said. I thought they would be better off having me back-to-back hours versus spreading me out, and then putting me in like a noon, 1 o'clock time slot during the week. Because that's actually a time slot I'd like to fill across the board. But they decided, and rightfully so, I mean, they can do that. It's no big deal. As I look at the numbers, I'm not going to lose that many listeners, if any, because the listeners that did listen to the John LeBang Show on that station, they have an alternative on one of the days because there is another show there, or there's another station carrying the show, same exact show right there, so they can go listen to that. And then on the other day, they can figure out something else. I'm sure of it. But the bigger news, I mean, that's the losses. We dropped a couple of stations, and you'll have to go to the schedule to see the changes because they're already up there. We picked up a station in California, and we have now been offered a paying gig up there in Canada, which we're really excited about. We're still working out the details. I mean, this is another milestone for the John LeBang Show. 2017 has been a pretty darn good year for the John LeBang Show. Being picked up by the Bubba Radio Network, Bubba Army Radio over there in Tampa, Florida, was a great way to start the year. It set the tone for the entire next steps, for all the next steps of the John LeBang Show. Because we've picked up, and this is where we've seen the shift. Ever since we were picked up by Bubba Army Radio, we haven't had to go out and look for stations to carry the John LeBang Show. There have been people who have come to us. Every single station so far has come to us, and it's been a lot, actually. We're still trying to work out the details on many of these things. We are going to search out a few markets that we want to be in, but we've already hit some huge milestones with Bubba Army Radio. Then within weeks after that, and I'll apologize, I'll have to look at when we were picked up by out there in Seattle, which was a huge thing for me because that's a homecoming, so to speak. I spent some time in my life, I lived out there. That was my home, and I still consider it my home away from home. I would love to go back out there and see a lot of my old friends, as well as, just enjoy the sights out there. So when we were picked up by Get Smashed, we were excited. We were ecstatic. And that's all been happening this year. And now we get picked up, or we're in discussions for an actual paying gig. It's pretty incredible, actually. When I'll have to admit, folks, that there were times when we were heading in towards the end of last year that I mean, the election had weighed so heavily on me. It had drained so much from me that come the Christmas vacation time that I always take, I was exhausted. I had nothing left. I didn't even know if I wanted to continue radio. I was so stressed, and I was like, I was just so happy not to be dealing with the election, Hillary and Donald, and it would still continue, but I took the break. I was like, I was done. And that's why I take these small breaks, and you're going to be noticing that here in the summer we'll run a few reruns or best ofs, and then we're going to have all the specials coming up in August. That's because I need to recharge. I don't get paid a whole lot to do this. In fact, outside of my few advertisers that I do have, there's no money running in. The John LeBang Show runs on its own and without much income. So when we're now offered a paying gig, we're really considering it. It has to, they want more days out of the John LeBang Show than we were hoping to save the 5 days a week till the new year, and it's hitting us early. Somebody wants us doing 5 days. They want to make us the main show on their station. I mean, that's humbling in itself. I mean, after all these stations that I've dealt with and the stations that I've dropped or lost in this travel of radio broadcasting, you don't think you're going to get anywhere sometimes, because you realize that not everybody doing this internet radio thing is very professional, and they're doing it as a hobby. And because it's a hobby, if they don't feel like doing it, then they don't connect you and you don't get on the radio, because even though you're providing a show that week, you have something available, if they don't feel like it because they're lazy or something, they don't put it on. And that's why you've seen over the past few years there's been stations that have come on and they've dropped off the schedule. For one reason or another, we've had to deal with those sort of things, and we've had to make decisions saying, it's not even worth it to do all the work, because it's a lot of work to send out files to everybody and then to put the little descriptions in the show, or to be ready to be up for the origination broadcast in itself. Then let alone, that's what I was talking about prior to that. I was sending it out, all the files to everybody else. That's after the fact. I got to get the origination show out. So the work that goes in to the John LeBang Show, takes a lot of time, and sometimes you got to make a decision on a network that isn't acting on your behalf, even though you've made an agreement. It's a one-sided agreement. You send them a show, and if they feel like playing it, they do, and if they don't, they don't. The kicker for me is, like, if they stop playing your show, I've had one of these stations that we let go just recently. They're not playing the show anymore. They don't let you know. You keep sending the stuff out to them. You keep sending out, the big descriptions of the show. And they're not small, because there's a lot involved in the John LeBang Show. We don't just, diddly-dally and make nonsense. We actually have a lot to talk about each and every hour, even if it's about just the show itself. So the professional stations, and there are some really great stations that we're affiliated with. Those stations, and a lot of those guys are small time, and they're barely running the station themselves. They're trying to keep it afloat like the Banger's trying to keep a show afloat. But they're still professional, because they at least want to achieve something. They want to do something with their radio station. They want to make something. They want to, we don't want to do that 9-to-5 job. It sucks. Working the day job sucks. You don't get paid enough. You have to put up with nonsense from everybody. You're stressed out when you get home. You're tired, you're exhausted, and you wonder where the heck are you going to fit in any fun into your life. So when people with inspiration to have a show or a radio station or any other creative endeavor that goes beyond working 9-to-5 for something because you don't want to do it and you want to create something, you want to be an entrepreneur, those people struggle until they can hit the big time or make it big or at least bring in enough income that they don't have to work for some joker, some schmendrick, some piece of garbage guy or corporation that barely appreciates that you're giving them 1/3 of your life each and every day you're there. So that's why we do these sort of things, because we want more than that measly little life, because it is unfair. You don't get paid enough. That's because things are too expensive, and that's because the guys at the top take too much of the cut for themselves. We know that. But that's how it is. And that's how I want it to be, because when it comes down to the banger, the John LeBang Show, this is my creation. And even if I bring in people to help me, I'm going to get the big lump of cash if it ever happens. Why? Because it's my idea. I want to be the guy that has people help me make the money. I don't want to be the guy making the money for the other dude. Anyways, folks, we're up against that first break this hour. More on the John LeBang Show after this.
Don't go anywhere now.
We're just taking a brief pause for the cause. The John LeBang Show will be right back. You can bet on it. If you are elderly, disabled, receiving SSI or Medicaid, and you have a medical need or require assistance with daily housework, shopping, grooming, medication, you may qualify for housekeeping at no cost. Call now. VIP Home Healthcare, 248-579-3805. VIP Home Healthcare, there when you need them. That's 248-579-3805. Check out the new book from Derek Shelmerdine,
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It tells the story of rock and roll from its roots right up until the mid-70s punk.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Not just the music, but also the events that shaped the music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It includes the backgrounds to recording sessions, singles, album releases, births and deaths, epic concerts, and festivals.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Shelmerdine has made a painstaking effort to document pretty much every event that would prove significant in shaping popular music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Purchase the book at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. Follow him at Twitter at R&R Unraveled, and look him up on Facebook at Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
By author Derek Shelmerdine.
Available now. You're listening to the John LeBang Show.
It's hydroponic radio for your brain, man.
Feel smarter yet? You know, when I was doing the show prep for this hour, I had a lot of things that I'd been gathering up over the past few weeks. Being that we played I was off last week, of course. We played the best of last week. I had some time to, an extra week basically to gather up stories. But a lot of them were, they're just stories. And when you read into them, they get old. It's the same old news again. We can talk about it over and over and over. And I don't, I guess I'm going to get to a little bit of that. Later on, if you stick around, I'm going to give you my review of Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm going to try not to throw out too many spoilers, but it's almost impossible because there are a lot of cool things that happened. So we'll warn you if we're going to go into spoiler territory, and you can turn off the radio if you haven't seen the Spider-Man yet. But we might as well touch on the news here before the half-hour break shows up. We've got a little time. That's why you come here. You want to know what's going on. You want the bangers' opinions. And one of the things that is really getting me right now, ladies and gentlemen, we've been harping on it on here for a long time. Actually, ever since Donald Trump and the Republicans have held everything. But they can't get it done. They cannot get it done. Here we are, coming up on August. And can you name one major legislative victory that the Republicans and Donald Trump can claim? Not really. Not enough to brag about. In fact, it's been stalled, it's been stale, it's been surprisingly slow. Now, why is that? Why can't they get things like the Obamacare, which practically every Republican ran on? We're going to repeal Obamacare. And then it become, we're going to repeal and replace. Notice how the promise got modified. Because they can't take socialism away. You can't take a program away. Once you put it in place, you're forever stuck with it. Because people become dependent on it. And if you cut them off, it's portrayed as you being some kind of meanie. Because you want the people to take care of themselves. And if we're to the point, ladies and gentlemen, that the American people are no longer capable of taking care of themselves and their personal lives, and they need mommy and daddy, the government, to control aspects of their lives, then we're in a sad state, folks. But we have the Republicans who have promised, who have run and who were elected to repeal Obamacare. There was no replace when we wanted it repealed. The American people said, no, we don't want to pay that tax. We don't want to be mandated to pay for other people's health insurance. At increased rates on top of that. Because the medical field, the insurance field, and the government have screwed up everything so bad, and the Republicans who ran on repealing Obamacare and weren't able to do it by now, this should have been the first thing done. The second, if you wanted the Supreme Court dude to be in there first, which they had to fudge it, which they had to cheat to get that guy in. The Republicans who run everything can't get anything done, so it's pretty much staying the way the Democrats placed it. And who is the ones that are having the problems? The Democrats. The people who voted Republican this time around, and probably times before. Where are you guys? You're sitting quietly, doing not a whole lot, while the people you elected are getting nothing done. Nothing at all that they promised. Every single one of them an empty suit. And you can say, well. It's so hard. It's so hard because the media is against us. Somehow the media was against Donald Trump during the election, and he won. I'm still trying to figure out how he won, how it wasn't rigged. And the funny thing is, the rigging was now blamed on him and Russia. That story will not go away. Will not. They're trying to find every connection. Now it's the one dude, whatever his name is, the son-in-law, had a meeting with a Russian lawyer during or before the election. Who cares? So what? The dude's from Russia. Big deal. Everything, Comey's statements, everything is pointing to the fact that Russia had no effect on the election. It didn't change one vote. It didn't change the outcome. Donald Trump still won. So why are we still talking about this? Because, well, I guess there's nothing else for the mainstream manufactured news to talk about. Yet they should be talking about the Republicans promising to repeal Obamacare, and they haven't been able to do it. And they're not following through with their promises. But because the mainstream manufactured news leans a little more towards the Democrat side, and because the agenda isn't changing, Obamacare is still there. We're going to have to pay one more year at least in fines for you people who did not get insurance because you thought, whoa, they're going to repeal Obamacare. So I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm going to drop my insurance because guess what? The Republicans are in charge. I won't be forced into buying a product from an insurance company. Yet now you're going to have to pay the fine next year. To me, it's an outrage that the Republicans can't do anything at all to follow through on their promises. In fact, they have done so little that you would have to start wondering if they like what the Democrats did. That's because they didn't maybe want to be so opposite. That's maybe the reasons behind why they weren't so tough back when it was all falling apart for them, when they were using reconciliation, practically an illegal move, to pass Obamacare in the first place. Maybe the Republicans want the agenda that's already in place. Maybe they're opposed to your agenda, the agenda you wanted in place. Your secure borders, the repeal of Obamacare, lower taxes. Where is all that? It's not there, ladies and gentlemen. You're not getting what you voted for. So you have to ask the question, are the Republicans fine with the status quo? Look, we just saw the numbers for how much they're projected to spend. Trillions, ladies, trillions of dollars. Nearing, I think it's like $4 trillion. Our government, not even our government, I don't even like calling them our government, Washington, D.C. That's how big the government has become, that it takes $4 trillion, roughly, to run everything. Just imagine that. How much they've got to steal from people, how much they've got to take from you to run something so big, to cost $4 trillion. They don't even get in $4 trillion, ladies and gentlemen. They don't even do it. They have to borrow that money, and they're still borrowing that money. And the deficit is getting larger, continues to get larger. Doubled under Bush, then doubled again under Obama. Yep. You got to wonder if both sides aren't working against the middle. That would be you, America. Got to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen, as we've run onto the half-hour mark. More on the flip side, right here on the John LeBang Show.
More radioactive than Fukushima.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John LeBang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
Fans, do you need a video for your brand new song but don't have a lot of money? Then contact John LeBang. His reasonable rates, professional look, and fast turnarounds will help get that song off the ground. Contact him at jlebang.com.
CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services. Their billers and managers are all dedicated to working for you to increase your profits. For more information, call CRRM at 248-579-3805. CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services. And allow me to do a little bit of self-promotion. If you like what you're hearing on the John LeBang Show and you'd like to know more about who I am or what we do here, then go to our website. That's www.jlebang.com. We've got archives of the show, games, prizes. You can submit music there, all kinds of things to arouse your curiosity and entertain you. Now, if you want to contact the John LeBang Show, there's one quick and easy way. You can send us an email at jlebang@live.com. That's jlebang@live.com. Send us questions, comments. Maybe you want to ask us a question on video. Well, then put it on video and then send it to us and we'll answer it for you. Now, if you're on Twitter, then follow us on Twitter at John LeBang. And when you're talking about us, use the hashtag banger. If you like YouTube stuff, then go to our one or both of our YouTube channels. The first one is Banger Incorporated, and the second one is The John LeBang Show. So original. Now, one last thing. If you're on Facebook, and I know you're on Mark Zuckerberg's favorite place in the world, then look us up at The John LeBang Show and like that page, because we love it when you like that page. This half hour is brought to you by Pane and the Glass Window Cleaning. For a beautiful sparkling shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass Commercial and Residential Window Cleaning. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Forces of darkness, the treasonable minds who collaborate must, can, and will be wiped from the face of the earth.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half hour. And there's a great deal of things to discuss, and I still want to get to the Spider-Man Homecoming review. So I'm going to save that for the final segment tonight, and we're going to kind of, if possible, run through at least a few of these important topics, things to discuss right here on the John LeBang Show. First and foremost, we're hearing that Mexicans are beginning to deport themselves because of the supposed crackdown on undocumented immigrants by federal agents, that's ICE. And it's scaring some of those families to go back to Mexico. And it's by Peter Roper. Peter Roper. In fact, Peter, just like to say something to you if you're listening, probably not, but knowledgeable is not spelled the way you spelled it in your article. And then since that was in the first sentence of your article, you might want to go back and fix that, buddy, being that you're a local rag and you want to look professional and all. Leave the misspellings to stupid people like myself, you would think, but apparently we're supposed to listen to this guy, right? And he's lamenting in this article that the mean old Donald Trump is scaring those poor people out of their homes and they're having to run to Mexico. Except they're from Mexico. And all this is coming from anonymous sources again. Mainstream manufactured news and their local affiliates love the anonymous sources. And according to these news reports from this anonymous source, federal immigration and custom enforcement agents were told in a February memorandum to detain any undocumented person they encounter, not just those with criminal history or those in jail, as the policy was under the prior president. And here's this writer, Mr. Peter Roper. He's saying that Donald Trump is a meanie, and we miss the benevolent and all-around good guy President Obama. The ramped-up enforcement has reportedly led to 14 people in the Pueblo area being arrested by ICE agents this year. 14 people. So this guy's writing an article about 14 people being arrested, and people are now scared that ICE is coming for them. 14 people that were lawbreakers. And these poor people are running to Mexico. Why? Why are they running to Mexico? Were they lawbreakers as well? And if they were lawbreakers, if they entered the country illegally, they're lawbreakers. Now, if I broke the law, being that I'm an American citizen and I broke the law, this is versus somebody who's not an American citizen and they broke the law. If I'm an American citizen and I broke the law, and then I went on the run to avoid being arrested, I'm sure that I would be considered a fugitive of the law.
This is the police. Come out with your hands above your head. We have the place surrounded.
Think about this. This reporter is discussing a story about 14 people who've been arrested, and now a bunch of people are running home. He doesn't know how many because it's an anonymous source telling him all this information. Could be false, could be true. I don't know. But a whole 14 people, that vast amount of people there, have been arrested because they were lawbreakers. They broke the law. First thing they did, actually, when they came into this country is break the law. And that is resulting in other people leaving the country. Poor people leaving the country and having to run to Mexico. Why are they running? Probably because they are lawbreakers too. And we have this manufactured news piece because he wants to make Donald Trump look like a meanie. He's a meanie for scaring all the people back to their home country. And then we have this voting commission by Donald Trump that's asking all the states to hand over election data. And there's a lot of states that are pushing back. They don't want to give up this election data. And it's being reported as Donald Trump trying to interfere and find out about people. A lot of people are worried that Donald Trump's just trying to find out the opposition, right? I mean, it only happened during the Obama administration that the government targeted the opposition. And they targeted them with the IRS on top of it all. Here, Donald Trump, and again, I'm not trying to defend him, but I might want to know some of the voting things that went on in states. If you're telling me that the election was hacked by the Russians, I would want to see all that information if I'm the president. And if I put together a commission to make sure that the election was fair and square, well, how else are you going to do that unless you get voter records and check what's going on there? But here again, I'm not for going to check all the voter records. I'm not for that. But here we have a party, the Democrats, that is, as well as all the supposed agencies, all agree that the Russians hacked the Democrat Party and the election. So if you're going to perform an investigation to find out how Russia hacked the election, and you create some kind of voting commission, Wouldn't you want to find out if what is being told to you by the states, as well as the Democrat Party, and as well as the agencies inside the government, people that Donald Trump probably shouldn't trust, wouldn't you want to find out more information to make sure they're not lying to you? And if you think people in the government are just going to switch their loyalty to Trump now because he's president, when they were under President Obama prior to this, you're crazy. These people do not switch their alliances politically. And we're finding out all these leaks and these hacks and all this other stuff that's coming out. And especially the leaks on the Donald Trump administration and what they're doing. There's obviously an issue within the government, a segment inside the government that dislikes Donald Trump and is doing everything to derail his presidency, whether you like it or not. There is that element there. So if you're Donald Trump and you're being told by agencies you don't trust, you're being told by a party and a group that you don't trust, and the news media is joining along, wouldn't you check it out yourself? And wouldn't you need to have those voting records to see what's going on? To see, this is the big one, why are these states hiding it? Maybe they're showing, especially certain states, that people are voting and they're not even alive, or they don't exist, or they're illegal aliens or law-breaking people from another country, and they're voting in an election they have no right to vote for. They're probably using a social security number that doesn't belong to them. And I'm not for getting everybody's voting records. But this is a natural step if you're trying to find out who hacked the election, what they hacked, and how you can stop it. But apparently, nobody wants to stop the hacking except Donald Trump. Or at least wants to find out the true information, because all the hearings have developed nothing. We've found out nothing important except maybe that the Obama administration knew about the hacks long before and did nothing about it. And we're going to shift gears just a little bit. Just a little bit here in this last little bit before we got to take a break. There's a new island that is forming off the coast of North Carolina's Outer Banks. It's just forming there. And people are going there to hang out. And we're having the opposite of what they told us would happen with climate change, that we'd have erosion of the mainland. This is actually developing an island. They're telling us it's happening naturally. The ocean's waves bringing sand and it's building up and it's making this island out of nowhere. So you're telling me that it is natural that the oceans can create an island, but it's unnatural when they erode the mainland, when maybe sea levels rise. I'm going to leave this article because I don't have a lot of time to talk about it. I went on a little long about the election thing. And because we're a little short of time, because I want to get to the Spider-Man. A lot of people want to hear the review of the Spider-Man movie. A lot of you have gone. But here we have an island that is created due to the environment. And if we're all worried that the environment is going to erode land, then we have to figure out maybe it's not as bad as they are telling us. If an island can form out of nowhere, maybe land erodes out of nowhere because that's natural too. Maybe hurricanes are natural. Did you ever think of that? I mean, they keep telling us that mankind is the most evil thing on the planet. We got Elon Musk over there, SpaceX. Now he's lamenting that there's too many people. The population, they've been talking about too many people forever now. What do you suggest, Mr. Musk? What do you suggest? If we have too many people, how do you stop them? How do you stop them from growing, from populating the planet, from making more babies? Maybe you want a war. Maybe that'll slow down the population. When the population gets too big, you just have a war. You just have something that'll kill people, and it won't put the blame directly on you, you know? You just say, well, it was a war and a whole bunch of people died. These people that run the world kill me. People at the top of the world. There's too many people. Well, maybe there is, but what do you suggest we're supposed to do about it? Do you want to kill them? That's ridiculous, right? Fine. Let's find a way to feed everybody. We're supposed to, in this 21st century futuristic world, let's find a way to feed everybody. How about in these third world countries, because we got the Pope over there, he's complaining that the U.S. doesn't know about the rest of the world. We're oblivious to what's going on. No, we're not oblivious. We don't want to deal with it anymore. We don't want to deal with third world mentality. Listen, if all these other countries were so great, wouldn't they have modernized their infrastructure? Wouldn't they have done something to improve their position? And some of these countries are at least 200 years behind the U.S. Even if you're 50 years, what's going on? The rest of the world is a mess. Maybe the United States and Washington, D.C., and presidents and congressmen and all that have affected some parts of the world. But there are parts of the world that have always been backwards, third world nations. They're not going to get out of that, no matter how much money you force down there to make things better. If the people can't modernize through mentality, can't catch up to the rest of the world mentally wise, if they're still living in a tribal, thought pattern, they're not going to catch up. And them having the modern equivalent of all the gadgets here, it's not going to do them any good because they're not ready for it. Anyways, folks, along this segment, be right back. We'll talk about Spider-Man Homecoming after this. Where do you think you're going?
The John LeBang Show will be right back.
So grab a beer and a smoke and sit your butt back down. Stay right here.
Powerful, epic music by Toothbox Row. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
If you want to contact the John LeBang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John LeBang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John LeBang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And as you have been anticipating, we have a little bit of banger review for Spider-Man Homecoming. Just to warn you, there are going to be some spoilers a little bit later. I'll try to keep it spoiler-free here in the first few minutes of this review, so that way, if you just want a basic review of the movie, you can get it and then get the heck out. And I'll warn you when the spoilers are coming. Hopefully, they may slip. You never know. What I found is this movie was fun. It was great. And it was one of the best Marvel movies to date. Tom Holland is an excellent choice for Spider-Man. He understands the character. He's acrobatic. He's witty. And he fits the role, which was a problem with the last Spider-Man. He really didn't look like Peter Parker. Ned, his friend in the movie, his little best buddy, he was so likable. There's no way you couldn't like this kid. And he was the perfect sidekick for Spider-Man. Now I want to tell you this. It's been a long time since Marvel has had a villain of this caliber. Michael Keaton was outstanding. You understood his motives and even sided with him at times. He was menacing, yet he kept this aura of honor and fairness about him. Now, how they started the movie was brilliant. They immediately tied it into the MCU while keeping it about Spider-Man.
I can keep the suit?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. Do me a favor, though. Happy's kind of your point guy on this. Don't stress him out. Don't do anything stupid. I've seen his cardiogram. All right?
Yes.
Don't do anything I would do. And definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in there, and that's where you operate.
What, does that mean that I'm an Avenger?
No.
And with a lot of Marvel movies, they give you a flashback scene setting up the story and then jumping up to modern day. And in this case, this is all happening directly after the events of Civil War. Because Tony Stark is dropping off Peter at his apartment. And they're having a little bit of pep talk. And Tony's telling him, hey man, you did a great job, but don't get all crazy now about this. You got the suit now. Hang around this lower level and take care of the neighborhood, because we need guys like you to take care of the neighborhood. Now, Peter, on the other hand, was like, man, I want to be an Avenger, dude. When's the next mission? And Tony's there like, slow your roll, kid. We appreciate the help. Don't call us. We'll call you. So here you got this kid who gets dropped off by Tony Stark. He has these extraordinary powers. He was just involved in the Civil War event where he fought Captain America, and it was his idea to bring down Ant-Man. That eventually led to that anyways. And now he's got to go back to his normal life in his normal little room, back to high school. And he's not allowed to tell anybody. And not only that, all this stuff is racing through his mind. And all he wants to be is Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man is way more exciting than Peter Parker. After school, he'd be waiting for the bell all day. And then after school, he'd run off, put on the new costume, and go swinging around the neighborhood to catch bad guys. He stopped the bicycle thief, and he helped an old lady. And after a hard day's work, Peter dials up the phone, calling up Mr. Stark or his buddy Happy, and telling him about his Spider-Manning for the day, and giving them a progress report. And the funny thing is, because Stark did tell him, don't call us, we'll call you, there's no answer. So he's got to leave a message. Now, this is all happening right before the part in the trailer where Peter comes crawling in, or Spider-Man comes crawling into the room, comes down, closes the door, and there's Ned with the Death Star on his lap. So I'm not giving away too much there. But now his friend knows. That means you have two 15-year-old kids who now have this major secret and can't tell anyone. And Ned seems to be the one who has the most loose lips. And he's like, dude, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. How am I not supposed to tell anybody? And all day in school the next day, Ned's asking him questions about this and that. Did you fight Captain America? Yeah, I fought him. Stole his shield. Then he beat me up. Ned, being curious, just wants to know every little detail. Can you call us a group of spiders or something? There was all kinds of great questions Ned was asking. You could tell Peter was getting a little annoyed. Like, dude, I'm just trying to get through my day because I don't even want to be here in school. I want to be out Spider-Manning. And as soon as school was done, Peter Parker went out to do some more Spider-Manning. And he just happens to stumble across that scene that we saw in the very first trailer, where those guys who were wearing the Avenger masks, Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, were robbing the ATM. You've all seen that trailer. And that leads to him meeting the Vulture. It takes a little while. There's some little detail in there I'm not willing to spoil for you. But that first meeting with the Vulture, he didn't fare so well. That I will tell you. And it leads him to be on a quest to capture these guys. Even though Tony, Iron Man, told him, leave it alone, dude. It's above your pay grade. Peter Parker couldn't leave it alone. In his attempts to apprehend the Vulture, to find out these people who are dealing in space weapons, he winds up in D.C. Then there's that big ferry event that you've seen in the trailer as well. That happens. And if you haven't watched the trailer, and this is no spoiler if you ask me, because it was in the trailers, Tony takes the suit away from Peter Parker because Peter overstepped his boundaries, got in over his head, and he almost had a major catastrophe if it wasn't for Iron Man being there. Now, without getting any further into the plot, it ends awesomely. Not only does it have 3 acts, it has like 5 acts. And there's action all the time. And it's a kid's story. You can relate as an adult. It made me want to be a kid again. I wanted to be Spider-Man. Now, before we go, because we're running up against time, as I talk too much always, and I can never get these things done quickly enough, there are a few criticisms. Is they forced a bunch of diversity on us again. All of Peter's friends were of this race, that race, and a whole bunch of other races. People that were in the comic books as one race were a different race in the movie. So that's the minor thing. And then I would have liked to seen J. Jonah Jameson there in one of the post-credit scenes. And oh my goodness, I couldn't believe there was no Ragnarok trailer right before the movie. I was hoping for a little Thor Ragnarok before the movie. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for yet another 60 minutes of sonic vibrations known as The John LeBang Show. Make sure to check out our website. That's www.jlebang.com for the summer scheduling to know when we've got a live show versus one of those famous best of shows. I'd like to thank all our affiliate stations across the globe and thank you for loyally listening to this broadcast. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, this is John LeBang signing off from the Banger Studios.
We have liftoff. Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance is futile.